Hey everyone, welcome back to the YouTube channel. My name is Furkan Dandia and I'm a therapist. Today I will be talking about another exploration I recently did, and it was based on the theme of The Lion King. Now, most of you may be familiar with the Lion King movie. I grew up watching it, at least the animated form, several times. It was one of the more popular movies as a child that I could remember. But there's a powerful lesson hidden beneath the surface. In The Lion King, we are presented with more than a story of loss and redemption. We are shown a map of the human psyche. At its core, the film reflects something timeless, the archetype of the king. King merely does not rule land. He can govern order, and that responsibility extends beyond the physical into the mental and spiritual domains. The kingdom he must protect is not only external, it is also internal. It is the space between thought and action, between impulse and restraint, between chaos and structure. And then conversely, the hyenas in the story are not just external threats lurking beyond the borders. They represent something far more enduring, forces that exist at the edges of every psyche. They are always present, waiting for disorder, not plotting, not conspiring, but ready to emerge when the conditions allow. As the psychotherapist Carl Jung suggested, what we do not integrate, it does not disappear, it returns, often in distorted forms. Building on Jung's work, Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette explored the archetypes of the mature masculine. The king, in its integrated form, brings order, blessing, and stability. But in its shadow, the king fractures into two forms: the tyrant, who rules through fear and control, and the weakling, who avoids responsibility and allows disorder to spread. Mufasa represents something closer to the integrated king, grounded, present, and aligned with order. He protects, he leads, and he embodies strength with compassion. Yet even he falls. Not because compassion is weakness, but because compassion without discernment can create vulnerability. Mufasa does not fail as a king. He misjudges the presence of chaos within its own domain. His compassion toward his brother is not inherently flawed, but it is not paired with the necessary boundaries to contain what Scar represents. And in that gap, betrayal takes root. This is a difficult truth. Even a strong internal kingdom can collapse if discernment is lost. While Mufasa's demise is physical, many of us experience a quieter form of collapse when we fail to protect our mental and spiritual space. We become vulnerable to internal forces that begin to take over. These forces can be addiction, distraction, resentment, avoidance. They do not invade from the outside, they emerge from within, like hyenas circling until there is no king left to hold the line. Moore and Gillette remind us that the mature masculine is not limited to the king. It also includes the warrior, lover, and magician. When these archetypes are not integrated, the warrior becomes either a sadist or a masochist. The lover becomes addicted or emotionally numb, and the magician becomes a manipulator or a naive innocent. These distortions are not rare, they are everywhere. And most importantly, they exist within us all. We do not need a literal kingdom to embody the king. The kingdom resides between our ears. From there, it extends into our body, our home, and our family. Yet many of us lose our circle of influence by focusing on what lies beyond our control, neglecting the responsibility that lies closest to us. When the inner kingdom is not in order, we oscillate between tyranny and weakness, trying to control everything or avoiding responsibility altogether. In both cases, fulfillment remains out of reach. After Mufasa's death, Scar rises to power, not as a true king, but as a tyrant. His rule is built on manipulation, fear, and an alliance with chaos. In The Prince, Niccolo Machiavelli makes a critical distinction. Cruelty, if used, must be decisive and restrained. It must be employed to establish order and then set aside. If it continues, it breeds instability and resentment. Scar never transitions to order. His rule remains rooted in fear, and therefore loyalty is never established. The hyenas, once his instruments of power, are never truly governed. They are merely enabled, and what is not governed cannot be controlled. Eventually, the very forces Scar relies on turn against him. This is not betrayal, it is consequence. I have seen this dynamic play out in real life. Situations where both sides are manipulating, concealing, and attempting to outmaneuver one another. It creates an environment of distrust and psychological exhaustion. It is quite simply a form of hell. So, what can we learn from Mufasa and by extension his son Simba? We rule whether we choose to or not. Even in avoidance, there's participation. Even in retreat, there is quite relinquishing of responsibility. The fall of the king is rarely sudden. It is a series of small choices until one day there is nothing left to hold the hyenas back. The task is not to eliminate the hyenas entirely, it is to recognize them, integrate what they represent, and ensure they do not govern the kingdom. Because in the end, the hyenas do not overthrow the king. They emerge when he is no longer there. Thank you for checking out this video. If you enjoyed this exploration, please subscribe or share.